1979 Daytona 500 Cup Series, Cale Yarborough versus Donnie and Bobby Allison. During the first live flag-to-flag telecast of a NASCAR race, leaders Donnie Allison and Cale Yarborough crashed on the final lap, handing the win to Richard Petty. On the apron after the checkers, Yarborough confronted Donnie and Bobby Allison, who stopped to assist his brother, and accused them of causing the wreck. Verbal barbs escalated into a fistfight. Yarborough even hit Bobby with his helmet, and the three men began fighting and wrestling and carrying on in front of a stunned national audience. Bobby later joked that Yarborough was beating Bobby's fists with his nose. The infamous brawl proved to be a watershed moment, launching NASCAR into the national spotlight. 1989, the Winston All-Star Race, Rusty Wallace versus Darrell Waltrip's teams. In a dramatic all-star race at Charlotte, Rusty Wallace spun Darrell Waltrip out of the lead in the final segment to take the $200,000 prize. Immediately after the finish, emotions erupted on pit road. Waltrip's crew members angrily confronted Wallace's crew as Wallace headed to victory lane, and the entire infield ended up in a fight. Dozens of crewmen brawled in a sprawling melee, a rare sight with so many people involved. A furious Waltrip famously quipped, "I just hope he chokes on that $200,000 about Wallace." Wallace apologized days later, calling it a racing incident, and the two eventually made peace. But the crew versus crew brawl at the Winston, with punches flying and teams piled in a heap, remains one of NASCAR's most notorious post-race altercations. 1995 Miller Genuine Draft 400, Michigan Cup, Michael Waltrip versus Lake Speed. After a hard-fought race at Michigan, normally mild Lake Speed had bumped past Michael Waltrip on track, angering Waltrip. On pit road after the finish, Waltrip pulled alongside Speed's car, yanked down Speed's window net, and threw two quick punches at Speed's helmeted head. Speed wasn't hurt, his helmet took the blows, but was stunned and furious. He briefly considered using his car as retaliation, but thought better of it. NASCAR reacted sternly. Waltrip was hit with a $10,000 fine for the very public assault, which occurred on live TV. The incident, Waltrip tattooing Speed's helmet with his fists, was one of the first major driver-on-driver punches caught on national television, and it earned Waltrip a hefty penalty and a place in NASCAR fight lore. 2001 Richmond Busch Series, Greg Biffle versus Jay Sauter. A simmering feud in the September 2001 Busch Series race at Richmond turned explosive after the checkered flag. Greg Biffle and Jay Sauter had tangled twice during the race, and Biffle felt Sauter had wrecked him. The instant the race ended, Biffle leapt from his car and practically flew at Sauter's parked Chevy. Biffle reached into Sauter's window and landed a right hook to Sauter's face before Sauter could even unbuckle. Crew members pulled Biffle away as Sauter sat stunned. NASCAR penalized both drivers. Sauter received a $10,000 fine with points docked for rough driving and Biffle for the assault. Biffle's sudden Superman punch, thrown while Sauter was defenseless, has since been cited as an infamous example of how not to settle scores in NASCAR. 2002 Bristol Night Race, Busch Series, Kevin Harvick versus Greg Biffle. In the fall of 2002, short-track tempers flared in a Busch Series race at Bristol when Greg Biffle's bump sent Kevin Harvick into the wall. Harvick waited for payback. The moment Biffle climbed from his car on pit road, Harvick, who had perched atop Biffle's pit box, pounced. He leapt off the pit stand onto Biffle, grabbing Biffle's firesuit and throwing him against the car. The two wrestled as crews jumped in to separate them. Harvick's acrobatic attack, dubbed a Spider-Man move by some, earned him comparisons to a WWE wrestler. No serious harm was done, but NASCAR wasn't amused. Harvick, already on probation for prior incidents, was parked for the next Cup race as punishment. The Harvick-Biffle scrap demonstrated how Bristol's tight quarters can ignite driver fury in an instant. 2003 GFS 400, Michigan Cup, Jimmy Spencer versus Kurt Busch. A long-running feud reached its peak after the August 2003 Cup race at Michigan. Kurt Busch had been trading paint and barbs with veteran Jimmy Spencer for years. In Michigan's garage area, Spencer finally snapped. He stormed over to Busch's car and punched Busch in the face through the window as Busch sat belted in. The blow bloodied Busch's nose and reportedly chipped a tooth. NASCAR took immediate action, suspending Spencer for at least one race and fining him $25,000 for over-the-line violence. Local police even investigated the assault as a possible battery. Busch was placed on probation, to team owner Jack Roush's outrage, since Busch was merely the victim. The image of the burly Spencer slugging the younger Busch and the ensuing suspension underscored NASCAR's zero-tolerance stance on garage area fisticuffs. 2010 AAA Texas 500, Texas Cup, Jeff Gordon versus Jeff Burton. In a bizarre incident under caution at Texas, Jeff Burton wrecked Jeff Gordon in retaliation for earlier contact, with both cars already slowed for the yellow. A furious Gordon emerged from his crashed Chevy and marched down the track to confront Burton. Upon reaching Burton, Gordon immediately threw punches, grabbing Burton by the collar as the two veteran drivers tussled on the backstretch before safety crews arrived. Officials separated them and, in a twist of irony, required Gordon and Burton to ride to the infield care center together in the same ambulance. The pair sat inches apart in tense silence after trading blows. Burton later apologized profusely, and Gordon, who normally has a calm demeanor, said his temper got the best of him. The scuffle between two respected multi-champions proved that even the sport's big names aren't immune to flaring tempers. 2012 Advocare 500 Phoenix Cup, Jeff Gordon versus Clint Bowyer. A season-long rivalry climaxed in chaos at Phoenix. Intent on payback for prior run-ins, Jeff Gordon deliberately crashed Clint Bowyer late in the race, igniting a multi-car wreck. After pulling into the garage, Gordon was still seething when Bowyer's crew confronted him. Bowyer's pit crew pounced on Gordon, shoving and tackling him near the number 24 hauler. A wild brawl between the two teams ensued in the garage area. Uniformed crewmen on the ground throwing punches and officials struggling to regain control. Meanwhile, Bowyer sprinted from pit road to the garage in a now famous full-speed dash, trying to join the fight. Although Bowyer never got to Gordon in the scrum, the melee was caught on live TV, shocking viewers. Gordon was pulled into his hauler by team members for safety as Bowyer was restrained. NASCAR penalized Gordon $100,000 and 25 points for intentionally wrecking Bowyer and put both crews on probation. The Gordon-Bowyer brawl, complete with Bowyer's cartoonish sprint, remains one of the most talked about NASCAR fights of the modern era. 2013 Auto Club 400 Fontana Cup, Tony Stewart versus Joey Logano. Intense racing for the win led to fury on pit road in Fontana. On a late restart, Joey Logano aggressively blocked Tony Stewart, forcing Stewart low and ruining his shot at victory. After the race, which neither won, Stewart hunted down Logano on pit road. He exited his car, stomped over, and immediately threw punches at Logano, sparking a scrum between the number 14 and number 22 teams. Crew members tackled Stewart and shielded Logano, whose crew chief got caught in the middle. He's a tough guy on pit road when his crew is there. Until then, he's a scared little kid. Stewart fumed about Logano afterward. As Logano lobbed a water bottle at him, Stewart vowed to teach the 22-year-old a lesson. Neither driver was penalized for the brief fistfight, but Stewart's post-brawl tirade, calling Logano nothing but a little rich kid, and the visual of Stewart's raw fury made this confrontation an instant highlight. It underscored the bad blood between the veteran Smoke and the upstart Logano. 2014 Toyota Owners 400 Richmond Cup, Marcos Ambrose versus Casey Mears. A relatively calm race at Richmond ended with a surprise one-punch knockout on pit road. Casey Mears and Marcos Ambrose had been battling hard on track, and after the race, Mears sought out Ambrose between the cars. A shoving match ensued. Mears pushed Ambrose several times, until Ambrose lost his cool and clocked Mears with a right hook. The punch struck Mears near the eye, visibly stunning him. Mears staggered back as onlookers rushed in. Ambrose was immediately yanked away by crew members before he could throw another swing. Mears sported a black eye afterward, but joked about it in good spirits. Ambrose, however, was fined $25,000 for landing the blow. The incident was caught live during Fox's post-race coverage. Commentators stumbled upon the confrontation by accident, making Ambrose's KO punch one of the most replayed fight clips in NASCAR lore. 2014 Bank of America 500 Charlotte Cup, Brad Keselowski versus Matt Kenseth and Denny Hamlin. Emotions ran hot in the October 2014 Charlotte playoff race. After the checkered flag, Brad Keselowski's aggressive driving had angered several rivals. He had roughed up Denny Hamlin on track and even sideswiped Tony Stewart's car on pit road during cooldown. As Keselowski walked between team haulers, still wearing his helmet, an incensed Matt Kenseth sprang out of the shadows and jumped Keselowski from behind. Kenseth grabbed Keselowski in a chokehold headlock against a hauler, throwing wild punches as crew members piled in to separate them. Moments earlier, Keselowski also had a face-to-face shouting match with Hamlin near pit road, with Hamlin needing to be held back. The usually calm Kenseth later said Keselowski ruined his day, so he wanted to return the favor. NASCAR fined Keselowski $50,000 and Kenseth $25,000 for the post-race chaos, and Stewart $25,000 for plowing into Keselowski's car. The Kenseth ambush, likened to a backstage wrestling attack, showed that even a mild-mannered veteran had a breaking point. 2014 AAA Texas 500 Texas Cup, Jeff Gordon versus Brad Keselowski. The fall 2014 Texas playoff race produced one of NASCAR's ugliest pit road brawls. On a green-white checkered restart, Brad Keselowski made a three-wide move. Contact was made, and Jeff Gordon's tire was cut down, spoiling his shot at a win. After the race, an infuriated Gordon confronted Keselowski on pit road, shouting and grabbing at him. Before Keselowski could respond, Gordon's pit crew and Keselowski's Team Penske crew descended into an all-out fight. In the melee, Keselowski was punched and tackled to the pavement, and Gordon got hit in the mouth amid the scrum, leaving him visibly bloodied in post-race interviews. Dozens of crew members were involved as officials struggled to pull people apart. Kevin Harvick even gave Keselowski a shove from behind to ensure the confrontation escalated. The brawl, captured live on national TV, left both drivers fuming. "He's a dipshit," Gordon snapped about Keselowski on camera, while Keselowski cited an Ayrton Senna quote to justify his aggressive move. NASCAR did not penalize the drivers, but suspended 4 Hendrick crewmen and fined 2 others for their roles in the fight. This wild Texas tussle, with a bloody-faced Gordon and a crew member seen kicking Keselowski on the ground, remains one of the most famous driver-crew brawls in NASCAR history. 2016 Driving for Lineman 200, Gateway Truck, John West Townley versus Spencer Gallagher. A late-race wreck at Gateway set the stage for a rare on-track fistfight. After tangling twice and crashing hard in the final laps, Spencer Gallagher and John West Townley climbed out of their trucks with tempers flaring. Words were exchanged, then suddenly the 2 drivers dropped their helmets and began wrestling on the track. Townley tackled Gallagher to the ground in turn 1, and the 2 grappled in the neon-lit night as the crowd roared. Townley landed several punches, a smattering of punches as described, on Gallagher while pinned on the asphalt. Officials and crew members eventually separated the pair. The bizarre scuffle, part tackle, part slow-motion brawl, both men appeared exhausted in the summer heat, instantly went viral. NASCAR fined Townley $15,000 and Gallagher $12,500 for the spectacle and placed them on probation. Fans jokingly gave the tussle WWE-style commentary, and the fight even earned an ESPN Not Top 10 highlight, marking it as one of the Truck Series' most memorable altercations. 2016 Chevrolet Silverado 250 Mosport Truck, Cole Custer versus John Hunter Nemechek. A wild finish on the Canadian road course led to a fight in the grass. Coming to the checkered flag at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, John Hunter Nemechek leaned on Cole Custer, shoving Custer's truck into the dirt as they drag raced for the win. Nemechek's truck barely inched ahead at the line amid contact. After a moment of confusion, as NASCAR reviewed the photo finish, Custer took matters into his own hands, literally. He found Nemechek on the front stretch and launched into him, tackling Nemechek to the ground in a full-body takedown. The 2 rolled in the grass, exchanging grabs and shoves as officials rushed in. "I got taken out, so I tackled him," Custer said unapologetically. Nemechek, still awarded the win, remarked, "Rubbin's racing. If roles were reversed, he'd have done the same." NASCAR opted not to penalize Custer's zeal, since no punches landed and emotions are expected in a title fight. The image of Custer bull-rushing Nemechek remains one of the Truck Series' most iconic fight moments, often dubbed the Mosport tackle heard round the world. 2017 Cobalt 400 Las Vegas Cup, Kyle Busch versus Joey Logano. A last-lap incident led to punches on pit road. Kyle Busch and Joey Logano were battling for third at Las Vegas when Logano's number 22 drifted up into Busch's number 18, sending Busch spinning on pit entry as the race ended. Busch, feeling wrecked intentionally, strode straight to Logano's pit crew after the cooldown and threw a punch at Logano on pit lane. In an instant, Logano's crew tackled Busch to the ground. A pileup ensued, crewmen pinning Busch down while swinging at anyone they could. Amid the scrum, officials yanked Busch out, leaving him with a bloody gash on his forehead as he was escorted away. Logano emerged unscathed and claimed innocence, saying Busch misjudged the situation. A furious Busch told Fox, "There wasn't a fight, I got sucker punched by nothing," and promised to handle it later, adding, "He'll get it." NASCAR reviewed the footage and issued no penalties, calling it emotions on display. The visual of an enraged Busch being dragged away bleeding and Logano's crew's scuffle made the highlight reels, another reminder of how quickly things can explode when hard racing goes awry. 2020 Alsco 300, Kentucky, Xfinity. Noah Gragson versus Harrison Burton. Teammates turned combatants in the Xfinity Series. After the Kentucky race, Harrison Burton of Joe Gibbs Racing was upset with JR Motorsports' Noah Gragson for a late race bump. Burton confronted Gragson in the garage. As cameras rolled, Burton shoved Gragson and got in his face. Gragson responded by throwing a right-hand punch, and Burton answered in kind. The 2 young drivers briefly trading blows before their crews separated them. It was over in seconds, but both landed shots. Burton, normally calm, was livid that Gragson's aggressive driving cost them positions. Gragson, never one to back down, said he had no regrets about defending himself. Neither driver was penalized for the scuffle. A couple weeks later, Burton joked about the incident, saying he just laughed it off. In retrospect, the Gragson-Burton dust-up showed that even NASCAR's rising stars carry on the sport's tradition of settling scores with fists when needed. 2021 Echo Park 250, Atlanta, Xfinity. Noah Gragson versus Daniel Hemrick. Pit road at Atlanta saw tempers flare between Gragson and another rival. During a mid-race stop, Gragson had backed up into Daniel Hemrick's stall, nearly hitting Hemrick's crew. This thoroughly infuriated Hemrick. Post-race, as Gragson was giving an interview, Hemrick marched over and attacked Gragson, shoving him against his car. Gragson dropped his mic and threw a punch. A brief flurry of swings ensued between the two before they were pulled apart. In the melee, Gragson landed a shot that cut Hemrick above the eye, while Hemrick landed one on Gragson's jaw. "He got popped in the eye, so we're even," Hemrick quipped afterward, sporting a shiner. Gragson showed no remorse, calling Hemrick's move unprofessional while smirking about the brawl. NASCAR summoned Gragson, but ultimately did not penalize him, ruling that his dangerous backing into Hemrick's car was not deliberate. The incident added to Gragson's growing bad boy reputation and produced an instantly viral clip. Even Fox's commentators were caught off guard on live TV as the fight erupted behind them. 2022, call 811 before you dig. 250, Martinsville Xfinity, Ty Gibbs versus Sam Mayer. High stakes and hot tempers led to a headline-grabbing fight under the lights at Martinsville. Ty Gibbs was furious after losing both the race win and a $100,000 bonus to Sam Mayer in a last-lap scramble. Gibbs decided to handle it with his fists. On the cool-down lap, Gibbs door-slammed Mayer's car in anger. Then on pit road, Gibbs, helmet still on, confronted Mayer. After a brief shouting match, Gibbs shoved Mayer and started to walk off. Mayer pursued, and the two began throwing punches. Gibbs unleashed a right hook that connected with Mayer's face, and a wild brawl erupted. Crew members and NASCAR officials swarmed them. In the scuffle, one official was knocked down and injured, and both drivers ended up grappling on the ground. Mayer later vented that Gibbs kept his helmet on. Obviously, he was scared, had it in his mind to throw a punch the whole time. Mayer said, "Gibbs, unrepentant, said things, built up, and I snapped." NASCAR fined Gibbs $15,000 for his actions. The fight, two young talents swinging wildly as sparks literally flew from another pit road scuffle nearby, was replayed endlessly on sports shows. It underscored Ty Gibbs's fiery temperament. He'd later say it was a learning experience, and added yet another chapter to Martinsville's history of post-race fireworks. 2022, Dead on Tools. 250, Martinsville Xfinity, Austin Hill versus Myatt Snider. Martinsville's fall Xfinity race saw a less publicized but equally fierce confrontation. After some late contact on track, Austin Hill and Myatt Snider had an altercation on pit road that escalated rapidly. TV cameras caught Hill and Snider in a heated argument, when suddenly Hill threw a haymaker punch, dropping Snider to the pavement. Hill then pounced on Snider as crew members rushed in to break it up. Snider got up with a cut on his face, and Hill was pulled away kicking. "That was a hell of a punch," Dale Earnhardt Jr. remarked on the broadcast. Hill told reporters that Snider had approached him, running his mouth, and ignored warnings to back off. "He said the right words that pissed me off, so things happened," Hill admitted later. NASCAR reviewed the fight and fined Hill, a notably strong former short-track racer known for his temper, $5,000 for the incident. The footage of Hill's punch, one of the most decisive strikes in recent NASCAR memory, made the rounds on social media, proving that even the sport's mid-pack drivers are capable of some old-school brawling. 2022 South Point 400, Las Vegas Cup, Bubba Wallace versus Kyle Larson. Emotions boiled over in a playoff race at Las Vegas, when Bubba Wallace physically attacked Kyle Larson after a dangerous on-track incident. On lap 94, Larson squeezed Wallace into the wall. Wallace retaliated by hooking Larson's car at high speed, triggering a heavy crash. After both cars came to rest, Wallace climbed out and beelined toward Larson on the apron. Wallace began shoving Larson repeatedly, yelling profanities as Larson, much smaller in stature, tried to turn away. Wallace delivered multiple two-handed shoves to Larson's chest, even pushing aside a NASCAR official who intervened. Larson held up his hands and did not fight back. The confrontation was tense and surprisingly one-sided. Wallace vented months of frustration in a few seconds of rage. By Tuesday, NASCAR announced Wallace would be suspended for one race, citing the dangerous retaliatory crash as the primary issue, though the post-race scuffle certainly didn't help. Wallace later apologized for losing his cool. The incident drew national headlines given Wallace's prominence and the safety concerns. It underscored NASCAR's stance: on-track revenge and off-track fights that endanger officials cross the line. Still, the image of Bubba Wallace shoving the reigning champion multiple times showed that raw driver anger remains very much a part of the sport. 2024, Dead on Tools. 250, Martinsville Xfinity, Chandler Smith versus Cole Custer. In a recent Martinsville playoff race, young Chandler Smith and veteran Cole Custer provided the latest chapter of NASCAR tempers. A late restart saw Custer move Smith up the track, costing Smith a potential win and championship berth. After the race, Smith, upset and eliminated from the title hunt, confronted Custer on pit road. In full view of fans and media, Smith yelled and then took a swing at Custer, appearing to slap or punch Custer's helmet before crews pulled them apart. Custer, caught off guard, did not retaliate as the incident was quickly diffused. Custer explained it as payback for earlier in the season, while Smith voiced frustration at being raced hard. NASCAR fined Smith $10,000 for violating member-to-member confrontation rules. The scuffle didn't evolve into a prolonged brawl, but it was notable as a rare 2020-style fight, brief, helmet on, and immediately penalized. It proved that even in the modern era, with strict rules and cameras everywhere, the passion to win can still boil over into physicality, especially at a pressure cooker track like Martinsville.